people who work in the porn industry, editors, cameramen, women, office assistants, etc., what everyday work challenges peculiar to your industry do you face? Some time ago, while visiting American cousins, I was invited to their neighbor's birthday barbecue. The birthday boy had started out as a documentary filmmaker, but for the last few years he had made the vast majority of his considerable income directing, shooting high-production value porn. I work at the studio floor level in the feature film business, so we had lots to talk about. When the backyard, over-the-top of Longneck's conversation rolled around to his genre of filmmaking, as it inevitably had to, I asked him if watching porn still turned him on, considering his occupation. His answer was a definite fuck no. Why not? He said it was because of the smell. Apparently, making porn in close quarters smells like you guess it might smell. Of sweat and spit and ass and piss and vaginal secretions and God knows what else. All over a cloying background stink of fruit-flavored lube. He compared it to being locked inside a construction site's unserviced porta potty, alongside a big bowl of strawberry puree. He said he can't watch porn because it brings back the smell, which kills his passion. What's more, his aversion to consuming porn himself ironically creates a domestic issue, because his wife likes to watch porn, especially the porn he makes. There's a whole set of issues the director and crew has to deal with because of one girl. Usually girls who show up to set late with an expired test, bad hygiene, drugged up, flake on a shoot, refuses to work with the backup male talent, has a panic attack mid-scene, and among other drama. A lot of these girls come from broken backgrounds and mentally are a hot mess. It's a totally different persona than what they portray on social media as a bubbly and horny person. Sometimes it's sad to see a young girl getting exploited by an industry ran by sleazy middle-aged men. A lot make it out this industry regretting their decision in a year. Those who survive end up working behind the scenes. We also deal with issues from the talent's agents. Some of the smaller, less reputable ones will cheat out the studio and talent of their money, charge a fee, even if the girl shows up but decides not to do a scene, tell us a girl is available on a certain day, and then cancel at the last minute. These problems happen more often than not. It is not that fun once you are on the business side of it. I was a makeup artist for a while for porn sets. The hardest thing for me was getting fake eyelashes to stay on. I work in the industry, photographer. I work with lots of newer models, and the one thing no one talks about is nervous farts. Yup, you can be shooting and all of a sudden your nose is assaulted by some ass gas. The worst ones will need to go to the toilet and do a huge poop, which stinks out the studio or hotel room. So yeah, there's that. Not necessarily porn industry, but I worked for a publishing company that did adult books. We were working on a book for 101 sex positions. The publisher wanted 101, the salespeople said that worked best, and we booked the models for 101 photos. Dear God, we were reaching by the end. There are not that many ways to position the human body and have the genitals line up to anything worthwhile. Used to work law enforcement. Quit the police force because I didn't like the way things were being handled at a higher level. And I now work as a contractor for porn sites. I filter through the uploaded videos to ensure there's no CP, hidden videos, pictures and videos, surprise gore, etc. Delete gore and other random videos like the Super Bowl halftime show. CP gets forwarded to the proper authorities, alongside any info we have on the uploader's account. I hate it at times, but at least some good comes of it. Pays better and the job is safer. I'm hoping to make a career of it because, honestly, porn isn't going anywhere. Also, my predecessor, a person who had a monopoly on the filtering porn videos industry, turned out to be a pedophile. He was arrested and his team disbanded, which is why law enforcement background was helpful in starting me on this path. It's just safer for everyone. I was invited to a fetish porn shoot at this bar in San Francisco a few years back, where this young woman was strapped naked to a wooden cross and waterboarded with beer, and had her titties slapped around. After the shoot, I talked to her for a while, and she said, the toughest part of the job is getting people to realize she wants to be there and is not there against her own free will, even though the shoot portrays a completely different story. I guess I had it easy. I did editing and visual effects. My main problems were people giving me a ton of footage, not using a slate, having the actors ad-lib so much I couldn't always figure out what went where. Oh, and missing clean plates, missing background shots and such. Basically, my issues were it was rapidly shot stuff by people who weren't professions, and would forget steps that are important later. I do not currently work in the industry, nor can I say that I was actually involved in it to a strong degree, but I used to do audio work for someone who did. I frequently had to replace fire engine or police sirens or other extraneous sounds in the audio with appropriate sounding moans or sex noises when the location recording picked up stuff from outside the building. You would be surprised at how many times a moan can be copy-pasted and sound legitimate. A friend of mine used to write adult films as his side hustle. Math was the hardest part. What would happen was that the studio would come up with a title. They'd have a number of sets available, a given number of male actors and a given number of female actors. The writer was given all this information and had to come up with a storyline that used all the sets and also included all the different combinations of men and women. Because you can't have the same two people get together twice in the same film. People tend to fast forward through a coupling that they've already watched. So it all came down to complicated combinatorics to get it all to work together. I had a friend whose job was to chauffeur porn stars from their homes to the set and back. It was a tough job because the vast majority of the time they were so zonked out on drugs that he'd have to go inside, dress them, and drag them into the vehicle or carry them back inside their house. Even if they got themselves to the truck, they'd urinate or vomit all over the interior, and he'd spend the middle of the day washing out the car. Then when he picked them up, they'd reek of porn set, so he'd have to clean up again after. He said there was one girl who was clear-headed, polite, and fun to talk to, but eventually she ended up dating a guy in porn and then sliding into a drugged-up mess. It's really affected the way I view porn. I used to think of it as sex-positive and done by choice, but the stories he'd tell about hearing their drunken recounting of how they'd been sexually abused as kids or how much they hated themselves pretty much made porn the same as horror movies for me. Being a cameraman in the porn industry is insane, and it takes an insane person to do it. I'm from Miami and had a friend in college who did a few videos. I hung out with him and the camera guy one night. They did a shoot earlier that day. The people holding the camera usually have money in the production. Sometimes they even own the channel company. They're the director plus cinematographer. This guy who I met was the kind of guy who made you nervous to be around. I always felt like he was on the verge of committing a violent crime, but was also trying to have fun constantly. We were all doing drugs and drinking, and he, of course, did the most. They talked about the shoot the whole time, and the camera guy was viciously insulting the girl they worked with. He even talked about other girls and was super mean. I sat back and watched and listened. My friend said the whole act of shooting porn is fine, and he felt he was great at it. But the camera guy just gets too close. He has to, I know. But I think it's why my friend didn't continue doing videos. The dude just weirded him out. I have a cousin who used to work in post-production editing. She only quit because the hours were long and it was taking a toll on her health. She's still friends with a lot of them to this day. Some tidbits she told me, most of them do it to fund college. The freakier the scene, the more they get paid. Girl-on-girl scenes pay the least. There's a ton of money in the cam industry. I worked for a small local prawn company for about 3 years. I handled a lot of the paperwork, the 2,257 info, writing paychecks, booking hotel rooms, etc. I would also hold a camera during the live shoot, help the models, go to the store if we forgot something. Shit like that. There were only about 4 or 5 of us working at a time, 2 holding handheld cameras, one being the director, the others checking the lights, the static cameras, and monitors. A couple of things. The smell. The set always smells like a weird blend of latex and lube, mixed with the food from the craft services table. The more people you're filming, the harder it is to keep to a timeline. It's oftentimes like trying to herd cats to get everyone on set at the same time. Of course, as soon as they eventually arrive, something will happen to the cameras or the lights. There is a lot of hurry up and wait. Filming prawn is really quite remarkably unerotic. I actually almost fell asleep once while filming. Now mind you, the models we were filming were extraordinarily boring for some reason, and I started nodding off. I found there are 2 types of models, women that are extremely smart, using the industry to further their career aspirations, even meeting women going for their PhDs. The others, let's just say I've handled rocks that had more brains. There doesn't seem to be a lot of in-between. Also, very, very rarely does someone come on screen without help. There is normally a cut with the guy jerking himself pretty hard, then it cuts back to the money shot. Only very rarely was a man able to achieve orgasm without jerking off first. As far as the story of the guy getting a mouthful on accident, I had no doubt that was a setup. You never film that close, as most cameras can zoom pretty damn good without putting yourself in the splash zone. Used to edit and shoot adult. Actually shooting porn as a crew member often isn't much fun. Cramming a bunch of lights and people doing vigorous activity in often small rooms with no ventilation makes the set quite hot. And then as a camera guy, you've got to hold the camera steady while you've got both arms over some guy's shoulders to do a POV shot. And it's basically like endurance weight training in a stinky sauna sometimes. And then there's lube on fucking everything, which can be a real pain in the ass if you're on location and need to make the place clean as a whistle before you leave. Subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss new and the coolest stories from all over Reddit in the future. See you next time.